you know, no one likes you, right? And I was just like, what? I was just like,
What? Okay.
What?
My name's Mohnish, and I'm your main host. Welcome to Real Talk. So the underground title for this episode should be called Why All Mean People Should Be Punched in the Face Immediately, because on the podcast we answer a very important question. And that question is, why are kids, especially boys, so mean to each other? Kids are the worst growing up, especially in middle school. Kids are the worst. And it was a reality that I dealt with growing up, and many people deal with every day. But I wanted to get past just, kids are mean, kids are the worst, that's the end of the story. I wanted to figure out why that was the case. I'm with my co-hosts Kevin and Armi, and I asked the question to Armi, insane question, what's the worst thing a kid's ever done to you? And we get the answer on this episode. So stay tuned. It's a good one. So we're starting off strong here. Armi, what's the worst thing that's ever happened to you back in the day? Like, what's the meanest thing that a kid's ever done to you?
I would say there wasn't any specific incident that really hurt me emotionally or anything like that. It was more of very subversive or subtle stuff that people would do, usually involving like exclusion. So like one of the most salient examples is we would go on ski trips every now and then with some friends from school, and we'd go up like the chairlift. We'd get to the top. We'd all decide which slope we wanted to go down, and then right as we were about to get there, like all of the other kids would break off right after I had already gone down, and then they would just ditch me. And then they would like play this game where they tried to like avoid me around the lodge or whatever, like hiding. And like it was kind of funny the first few times because it's like, oh, we're ditching him, like now we're playing hide and go seek almost. But then like after like the fifth time or something, it just got super annoying because the whole point of going there was just to have fun with your friends, and then they were just right. And it's also just, you don't like the idea of people like, oh, let's like ditch him behind his back, like kind of talking about you like that, because you knew those conversations were going, like they were planning who they were going to fuck with. So on the one, like I don't think they really meant anything by it. Like we're all still good friends. At least we were in middle school. I haven't really kept up with anyone from middle school. But that was probably like, it was stuff like that that really pissed me off at the moment.
They were igniting in you sort of the inflammatory evolutionary response that everyone has to group ostracization, right? Like when the group excludes you, they were igniting that in you real quick.
And it was like, and it was also just the unexpected nature of it. It was like, it wasn't like I had done something to piss them off. It was just like, let's fuck with them for no reason.
Right.
And it wasn't, and it's not something.
Were you like, dude, why are they like, were you questioning yourself? Like, do they not like me anymore? Like, why are they doing this? Like, why am I the kid why am I the butt of the joke kind of?
Yeah, of course. Especially the first few times. And then after that, I was like, it's also just something that's harder to ignore. I mean, it's easier to ignore it when somebody's like, you're ugly. Like, and then they're still there. You're like, all right, whatever. Like, and you just move on. I call Kevin
ugly all the time, and he can't ignore it. It's pretty ugly.
It's just a joke, guys. Love joking with you, Moni.
But when people just literally as a group like do an exodus away from you, it's a little hard to ignore.
Away from you. Yeah. It's pretty. You can't ignore that. Yeah, dude. I remember when kids are the worst. I remember back in 7th grade, there was this kid who he was an Asian kid, so I'm basically
Oh,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Kevin.
Those are the worst.
Right. It was Kevin coming back from the grave and just putting his soul into somebody else and trying to be mean to me. But
well, that's all ages. We're like a hive mind, so it was just me. Like my
teleporting.
like my conscious was in his body at that point.
Any Asian kid that is mean to me, I just blame it on Kevin. Essentially, no. This kid was. We were in the gym and we were all hanging out, and it was like I was well liked in high school, but I wasn't part of the popular crew. But the popular kids would talk to me, they would converse with me, and this was not 7th grade. This was like 8th grade probably, and I remember I made some joke and everyone laughed. It was at gym, and then then the bell rang and everyone was going to class, and this kid, we'll call him Joey. He stops me and he's like, Mohnish, no one likes you, right? And I was just like, what? I was just like,
What?
Wait, Armi says it. It's so funny. Armi has the best exasperated voice, like, what? Stinky bitch? No, and I remember just being like befuddled, and I was, and I didn't know what to say to him, and I had no comeback. Again, I was classically, at least not known for it, but I remember just being classically aware of the fact that when it came for comeback time, I had no comebacks to give. You know what I'm saying? Like, any witty retort, yeah, no chance, baby, no chance. Like, just not about it, right? But I remember that sticking with me, and I had to think about it. But I remember that being incredibly just. It ignited me because it almost like I felt amazing. I felt like I made the group laugh, and that kid took all the security that I got from that moment and just knocked that shit down like it was a fucking tent, And that's the thing when you're in middle school and high school, especially in middle school, where people are testing out their social boundaries, testing out their assertiveness, going too far with it. A lot of us are just trying to be part of the in-group, right? There's a strong need to be part of the tribe, right? I mean, like if you were outside of the tribe back in prehistoric times in the savannah, you would literally be killed, right? So being out of the tribe is incredibly bad for you, right? And that was all I cared about. And then that guy basically just said, hey, no one likes you.
Hey, Mohnish, you're not a part of the tribe. You know that, right?
Yeah,
dude, I have like two. When I just think back on my life, and I think of times I was bullied or kids were mean to me. There's two stories that just come to mind instantly. It happened a ton. Obviously, everybody's experienced a mean peer countless amount of times. But the two stories that stick out are the first one when I was in gym class in 8th grade, and we were playing dodgeball, like huge gym wide dodgeball game. Yeah. And this kid. I've never said a word to him, never interacted with him in any way. I'm so confident that I've never spoken to this kid at all. Yeah. He just throws a ball. He's on my fucking team, and he throws a ball at the back of my head. So I'm like, dude, what was that? And I just kind of look at him, and he just has like this cheeky grin on his face and continues playing. So I'm like, whatever, I'll let it go. And then at another point in the game, later on, he comes up to me and just pushes me into the wall. Why would you do that? So then I turned around and I pushed him back. And then he's like, dude, what the fuck, bro? And he gets all upset about it as if I did something wrong. So that was just completely unwarranted meanness to me by another kid. The second time is, I'll never forget this one. This one just, it's so crazy to me. We were playing football, just a pickup game in the park. And one of the older kids, like he was a couple years older than us, kind of strolled onto the field and started playing with us. And he gets to be a team captain somehow. And I remember, I'll never forget what he said. I was the last pick for football. And he goes, yeah, you guys can have Asia. He literally, yeah, I swear to God, he said that to me.
Oh, that's so mean. Asia. That's so mean.
It made me so angry. I was so mad. Like, the rest of the game became about how I can get him back for that. And the entire game, he just kept calling me Asia. Like, how fucking demeaning is that? Like, I'm just not a human being at all. All I am is my race, 100%.
Well, you know what happened was, I'm guessing when he called you Asia, people laughed.
I'm sure some. I'm sure people laughed. I don't remember specifically how everybody
Kevin,
else did. Because
you're
it
not
was
a
like
race.
all I saw was red at that point, and all my anger was
Kevin, I have a
towards
You're
question.
not a race. You're a subcontinent.
yeah.
not even yet. Right. No, I mean that's crazy. I mean, like when you're growing up, especially when you're young, especially if you're a guy, right? You are trying to figure out your place in the status hierarchy, right? In an easy way to assert status is to assert your dominance over other people, right? So if he can treat you like you're his little brother, people imply, oh, he is higher status than you, right? Because he's clearly above you, right? Or and also when he makes that joke, there's a positive reinforcement loop, right? He makes the joke, he calls you Asia, people smirk, right? And then he feels good about it, right? There's something about being mean that you just feel like, and when you do it successfully and you just overpower someone verbally, it feels good.
That kid was insane. I gotta say, like,
Really?
these are my first of all, these are my friends. They're not his friends. And also, like, he wasn't that much bigger than me or anything. I remember after that, I was like, I told everyone on my team, I was like, oh, I'm gonna tackle the shit out of that kid and make him completely regret it. And I did. I all I did was just tackle him the rest of the game. I didn't even play unless it was to just harm him physically. It was so ridiculous that someone would say that to me.
Yeah.
Kids are fucking cocksuckers, all right? I gotta tell
dude,
you.
I'll tell you what. To quote Kevin's Psych 100 test, men and women have different styles of aggression. I mean, overt aggression is pretty much like a guy just gonna come up to you and be like, I'm gonna fuck you in the face. Like that's basically a guy, right? And then relational aggression is where with women you see that more. It's like where they basically like they're like little Machiavellian devils. They just try to take down your entire social life, like one person at a time. It's so insidious. And like Louis C.K. has a great bit on this where he's like, boys just do damage to your house you can measure in dollars like a hurricane. And then he's like, girls leave scars in your psyche that you find later. Like they'll shit inside of your heart, right? And it's so weird because I've seen women act this way and I've seen guys behave this way, right? I mean, Army, weren't you like punched in the face? Like
I don't remember getting punched in the face. I mean, my brothers punched me in the face, but that's different. Like the only time I've punched somebody in the face.
Give me a break. Punched in the face.
Yeah.
The only time I punched anybody in the face was one of my best friends. He came up behind me. We were in line to like get out of gym class, and he kept giving me 5 stars, which is like where you just make your hand and like you spread out your fingers and you just slap somebody as hard as you can right in the middle of their back.
I've never heard of that, but that sounds awesome.
Wait, you've never heard of 5 stars?
I've never heard of 5 stars.
What kind of school did you go to?
He went to a private school.
Oh, Army went to private school.
My school, the walls were lined with bubble wrap. Like it was just not hardcore at all.
Yeah. Anyways, and he kept giving me 5 stars, and eventually I ignored it at first, and he kept doing it, and I just flailed around and like slapped him so hard in the face. He like fell down, and we were both laughing because it was so unexpected. But anyway, that's like the only like real like punching of the face interaction I've ever had.
That just seems like more like male bonding.
It was, and that actually it's a good transition to the next thing. And Mohnish, as you said, like with guys, it's usually much more obvious. But I think part of that is because with guys, there's often a subtle like demarcation between bullying or like intentional aggression that's meant to hurt and just like kind of testing out somebody's sense of humor and social boundaries, usually through teasing or making fun of somebody.
Right.
So like, you know, when like, you know, me and you and Kevin, like we talk shit to each other constantly.
To be honest, one of the bedrocks of this podcast is us just shitting on each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I love shitting on you guys.
Yeah, it's great.
It's pretty.
I love when we all just take shits on each other.
They don't call it the Cleveland Steamer for nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like part of that, you know, it's just funny, and we're all like pretty good friends now, and so it just helps the interaction and makes it hilarious for everyone. But especially like when we first met, and this is true of any friend, like it's often about kind of testing out, like, oh, is this person like laid back, or are they going to be like stressed out about crap? And it's actually, I think humor is an extremely good barometer of somebody's general level of anxiety and self-assuredness.
Like
so, for
a paranoid schizophrenic can't make a joke, right? If you have like humor is a mental fitness indicator, right? So if you're laid back, if you have, again, high social intelligence, you can probably also crack a joke, right?
Yeah. And this is one of the reasons, like, especially when I'm getting to know girls, especially, but also guys, and really anybody would want to be a friend, or I'm curious if they would be a good friend, is why I generally do make a lot of jokes at first. Like, I'm teasing, I'm messing around with them, because it's usually the people who don't handle jokes well, or just are very uptight and like don't laugh that much. So they're the first ones to like freak out if their luggage isn't on their airplane with them, or something goes wrong on a road trip, or like they burn the rice making dinner. Like, oh my fucking God. Like, they're the people who lose their shit, and I can't stand that stuff.
Yeah.
Or like a more pressing example we were talking about is like they're the people who get all paranoid if somebody says something about them. Like, especially with girls, I think it's more true. So, like I said, I think humor is an extremely important barometer for all of those things. And with guys, often that means teasing. Like, calling Mohnish Brown and Kevin Asia.
How dare you, Army?
What the fuck, man?
What's wrong with you?
No, dude, suck.
Dude.
Check
So,
your
like,
privilege.
yeah, no. So, like, basically, guys say mean things to their friends as a way of affection, and they say mean things that they don't actually mean, right? Whereas girls say nice things to each other that they don't actually mean, right? But the thing is that when you're growing up and you don't really know this, you don't really know that guys show their affection by saying mean things that they don't actually mean. At least for me, guys would say mean things to me, and they were totally on my side and they were joking, but it would trigger an inflammatory response in me, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go on.
I was going to say the follow up to that is that, like I said, it's a very subtle line sometimes. And often, especially when you're initially meeting people, like, that first day of middle school or high school when everyone's kind of testing out who they're going to connect with. It's very difficult, especially when you're a young kid, to sometimes tell the difference, right? So it's hard to tell when somebody's just teasing you and when they're really trying to hurt you. Now, sometimes it's obvious, like you're fucking ugly. But even then, it's funny. Like, sometimes you'll meet people who that's kind of their way of teasing you or testing out whether or not they're going to get along with you. And so, like, that's one of the trickiest things when you're young and you're in school, is that it's often very easy to just get pissed off because that's the easy option. And that's what you initially want to do. But that person might actually just be trying to make friends, as weird as that sounds. So yeah, like, that's why I think bullying is like a whole other topic that we should probably tackle in another podcast. But as we've talked about before, the whole narrative around bullying in school is such crap that it's just never going to help anything. Because essentially, the simplified version of that is that schools and teachers and parents are usually getting together to say, don't be mean to other kids, accept everyone for who they are. Like, right. Which just doesn't help anybody for a variety of reasons. It's much more, not complicated, but it's just different. It's not how it works.
That's not how the real world works. That's just their ideal world that doesn't actually exist. So yeah, I agree. I think schools and parents and teachers need to teach kids how to interact with the real world, not the fantasy world that's this utopic. Everyone could be nice and treat each other, because that's not how it goes.
Yeah.
And also, dude, I mean, like, there's a story. Basically, I was on the basketball court, and I was super bad at basketball. But by the way, if anyone's been listening to Real Talk for like a while, they'll notice that my lack of athleticism was definitely a defining trait that I held pretty steady. But I was pretty bad, and it was in PE, and I was just...
I've said this before, but if you're a listener, Mohnish is 6'4". There's no reason that he should be bad at basketball.
Right. I mean,
there's kids that are 5'3" that are like 4 times
they're schooling me, And, no, I mean, like, this was maybe 8th grade, 7th grade. I can't really remember, to be honest, but, like, I was just playing to have fun, and I remember this guy, I was kind of like, I was D'ing up on him a little bit aggressively because that's all I had, right? I didn't have the skills, but I did have some good boxing out skills. And basically, at one point, I just started D'ing up with him, and he just pushes me, right? just straight up, like straight up. And I slide all the way across the gym floor, out of the doors, into a car, back to my mom's house, into my house, and then I start, and then into my shower,
into a plane, all the way back to India.
The plane lands in India. I'm back. Go back to a village, and my clothes slide
down
off,
the ramp,
and then I'm naked and crying in a random hole somewhere. No, and that was sort of one of the times when the immediate response in me, like everyone says, like, oh, aggression is bad. Oh, all aggression is bad. Oh, all gossip is bad. All this is bad, right? But the world is, I mean, part of this podcast, we're trying to show that the world is multiple shades of gray and not just black and white, right? And when he pushed me, I had this really deep urge to just knock him out, right? In the same way that I had when that kid said, dude, no one likes you, I had that deep urge to just fight him, right? It flared up in me. Aggression can be adaptive and maladaptive, right? It can be adaptive in that if someone pushes you, right? Someone threatens your life, that aggression helps you fight back.
Right.
Right. In the wild, right? In high school, you're probably not going to die, right? And also, it can be adaptive in the sense that, say you're popular in high school, and you're really mean, you assert your status, and then other people don't really like you, but you're popular, right? It's adaptive in a very weird sense that you're gaining status, and the mean kids get into this feedback loop where they're mean even more.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
Well, I was going to segue into the story of I've been on the other side of it too. I've been on the side where I've been the mean person, as everybody has. I mean,
sure,
we're not all these nice, perfect human beings. I remember in 8th grade there was this kid who, at the time, I thought he was just kind of annoying, and everyone in class didn't really like him. So I was honestly just mean to him, straight up. I would do like the whole kind of shove him around a little bit every once in a while, or make jokes at his expense, and which was uncharacteristic of me. I mean, obviously I'll do that shit with my friends, but with this kid, it wasn't because I liked him. It was because I thought he was annoying and I didn't like him. And I'll never forget. I go back to my yearbooks every once in a while. In the back of my 8th grade yearbook, because everybody signed yearbooks at the end of the year.
Yeah.
He wrote, "I had a shit year with you." That's all he wrote in my yearbook. And I thought about this over the years through high school. He didn't go to my high school, so I didn't see him ever again. But I just thought, like, man, I was such a dick to that kid, to the point where he said, "I had a shit year with you," in my yearbook. And I felt so bad about it. And as I started becoming more introspective and self-aware over the years, I felt even worse, because I thought, like, wow, all I did was just be mean to that kid because it made me feel better at the time. And I thought by pushing this kid into an out group, maybe I would become part of the in group of kids at the top of the social hierarchy who can be mean to other people and laugh about it and have a good time. So anyways, after I graduated high school, I actually sent him a massive apology on Facebook. Like paragraphs and paragraphs of like, "Hey man, I've been thinking about this over the past several years, and I don't know if you remember or not, but I just really want to apologize for my behavior towards you in middle school. It was completely uncalled for, and I really regret it, and I've regretted it for 4 years now." And then he responded just like, "Oh, dude, I don't even really remember what you're talking about, but hey, man, like good to hear from you, dude. Like, how are you doing?" And we just talked for a while, and it was ridiculous. But yeah, so
yeah.
It's not black and white. There's several shades of gray, like you said. I think there's 50 of them, actually.
Yeah, dude. I mean, the best way to add value to the kids around you and to get value yourself isn't to be mean, isn't to be a dick. It's to basically to just literally add value to the group by being kind, by helping the group out, by helping your friends out. And that's another way that you can actually sort of gain prestige within high school, I think, is that when you're the guy that's kind to everyone, when you're the guy that's helping everyone out, when you're the guy that helps a group out, for instance, you throw a party that gives you real social proof, right? You're inviting people to come over, inviting people to hang out. That's real value you're giving people, right? Whereas when you're being mean, you're sort of manufacturing value.
Yeah, I was about to talk about that. So, tracing back to our conversation on gossip and bullying, I think one thing that is often not discussed is essentially that everyone in middle school and high school has done nothing important or really real with their lives. I mean, there are a few kids who are like, oh, maybe like you've written a book, or like you're some programming prodigy or something, or you're working with best-selling authors. You're doing something cool. Yeah. But really, especially in terms of social value, nobody gives a shit about any of that stuff.
Thank you.
Especially if you work with best-selling authors.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm all into that. But in middle school, like in high school, as we've talked about, it's not that important to the group. So, do you guys remember when you were in middle and high school, and there would always be like those little stories and rumors that you were so desperate to learn about that there's that group of three kids, and like something happens over the weekend, and they're all like whispering to each other about it and pretending like it's all serious and important, and you're like desperate to learn it, and when you finally do, it's like, oh, like Jack and Sarah broke up. It's like nobody gives a shit. Right. And it's something like that, where essentially what those kids are doing is, because they have nothing else that's really that important they can lean on that's valuable, they manufacture this kind of exclusivity with pieces of gossip and stories and experiences that they make seem so important, and you get all worked up about at the time. And it turns out that they're just completely, there's nothing there. It's like a piece of quartz instead of a diamond. And so I think that's also another large reason why gossiping is so big in school, especially, is because it is a form of social currency, where they can kind of trade in these little secrets and inside jokes. Yeah, and then I like that thought a lot. I hadn't really considered that.
Not only is gossip social currency, but it also helps. The reason gossiping is even a thing in the first place was because it helps enforce social norms, right? Jerry was an asshole. Like, if it wasn't for gossip and for the fact that mean people basically talk about mean people being mean, lots of us would probably be violating social norms left and right. Right? So it's actually, gossip is actually a solid policing mechanism. The problem is that people don't use it as sort of a light policing mechanism. People in high school especially use it as a weapon. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, they're like, oh my god, I'm going to talk about Sarah and she doesn't wear fucking Hollister. Like, oh my god.
Like that's the stuff, right? That's, and it's mostly about things that don't matter, right? Things that don't matter. And
absolutely.
As a general rule of thumb, just don't. You don't need to be that person that talks badly about people. So
I would say a general rule is that don't talk about it unless there is some constructive outcome. Or if it's something that directly affects you.
That's a great rule of thumb, by the way. That's better than don't talk about it. Because
it is okay to, I think, talk about some of this stuff. Like if somebody, here's a very crude, it's kind of forced example, but let's say, I don't know, you have some friend who's female and she's like, hey, I was wondering about Daniel, and I think he's kind of cute, blah, blah, blah. I think that happens every now and then, right? You have some female friend who's interested in another dude. And she's like, what's he like? Or something like that. And if he's a real dick, and you know about him that way, you don't necessarily have to sugarcoat it. You can be like, well, he pushes kindergartners into the pool and watches them flail around.
He's kind of a dick. I think that's definitely sugarcoating it. If he pushes,
he murders squirrels in his backyard.
He takes pictures of them and puts them on his blog.
He has a blog. What?
The dead squirrel.
No. The girl's like, oh, well, he has a blog though. Yes.
He has he puts pictures of dead yard animals on his Instagram. Oh my god, wait, how many followers does he have?
Yeah, dude. Dude, speaking of just ridiculous human beings, there was this kid that he was known for. I was there when this happened. He pulled his pants down in class, and I remember having to go to the principal, and she was like, "So, what happened, Mohnish? I mean, did he?" And I was like, "Yeah, he pulled his pants down. That's exactly what happened. It was hilarious and it was awesome. But that kid was kind of mean to me."
I was gonna, that conversation with the principal could get so weird. I mean, what if it was like, so did he actually pull the pants down? He's like, yep. He's like, so how much did you see?
Like the tables have turned. Oh my god.
Yeah, it gets
Here's a
super
pen and
weird.
paper. Can you just draw me what you saw? It's okay.
Yeah. No. Cool. And any last thoughts?
Basically, there are justifiable reasons for behavior that seems mean, like we've talked about. So gossiping does, in some ways, serve a function to a degree. Often when people think they're being bullied, it's in many cases just people trying to connect and understand your sense of humor and what you're like. But at the same token, it can often get way out of hand. And there are many different forms of aggression that are difficult to understand, especially when you're young. But we've talked about that, and I think we've gone into pretty good depth on how to parse those out and figure out the right responses.
Yeah, it's easy when you're young to just think all aggression is either bad or good. Just be like, any small slight is a bad thing, or anything that's mean but is funny is awesome. Like, no, like, calm down.
One of my favorite quotes, Mohnish, you fucking know this already. I say it all the time, but I'll always say, like, it's it's not an excuse, it's an explanation.
Yes.
There's an explanation for why people are mean. There's an explanation for everything. That doesn't mean it's an excuse. When people are dicks, kids bully each other. It's not excusable behavior, but there is an explanation for it. And I think if you can come to terms with the explanation for mean behavior, it helps you cope with it more too. Because that's what I've experienced.
It also allows you to have empathy for like all human beings in this very grand respect, because everyone has an explanation, even to the most extreme,
Mm-hmm. The meanest kid, the kid who fucking called me Asia, the kid who pushed me into the wall and was a complete cocksucker to me. There are reasons why they did that.
Yes.
And it's not like they're these evil people who were just born to wreak havoc and bully everybody else.
Part of it can just be their insecurity.
Right. Right. Yeah. So, when kids are dicks to each other, even when you're a dick to somebody else, there's always an explanation for it. You can always come to terms with some sort of understanding for human behavior in general. And I think when you do that, it helps you cope with all the shitty behavior that you see.
Sweet.
Yep.
Any other?
Cocks.
Can you say that one more time, please?
Dicks. Cocks?
Yeah, there we go. That's all right. Now we can officially end the podcast.
All right. Let's call it there.
Do you have a question that burns with the intensity of 1,000 suns? If you do, awesome. We want to answer your questions and we want to feature it on the podcast. If you want your question to be answered and you want me to personally research it, I would love to. Go to www.realtalkstudio.com/ask. Again, that's www.realtalkstudio.com/ask. The only catch is to sign up for the free email list and to be a Real Talk Insider. It's totally awesome. It's totally great. And you can ask your question. Special thanks goes to Armi for helping out with research, Kevin for helping out with editing, Vishali for helping out with content, and CJ Beats for the music. This is Real Talk, signing off.